President Obama is traveling the country to promote the American Jobs Act. That is the close to $500 billion plan he proposed last week. This bill includes a payroll tax cut, more investment in infrastructure, and economic aid to struggling states. It also calls for changing the tax code so the wealthy among us are paying more. Top Republicans, not fans. They're already criticizing parts of this proposal, and now the president is facing a new wave of questions about his ability to lead, thanks to an extremely close, and surprisingly close, really, contest in the 9th Congressional District. Here to discuss the special election and the jobs bill are our insiders, political veterans who join us each week to share their thoughts on the top issues of the day. Here with me tonight is Bruce Jory. He's back, a former advisor to 2 Democratic governors. He now works at Corning Place Consulting. He's an adjunct professor also at Albany. Also with us is Dave Catalfamo, who was the communications director for former Governor Pataki. We've been seeing a lot of that gentleman lately. He's now a partner at Capital Public Strategies. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for being back, both of you.
Thank you.
It's now safe to come out of the water. It's okay. He's not running.
I'm not sure yet.
Welcome home. All right. Anyway, let us talk first about New York 9. I mean, is it a referendum on Obama? Is that fair? What can we say about that? The spin is like crazy. My head is on backwards already. You want to start, Dave?
Sure it is. I think that the president's performance has been so unspirited and so unfocused, and has not provided a rallying cry for even the far left of his party that members of his party of all stripes are disenfranchised, whether that would be conservative Jewish voters in that area or even the more liberal elements of the party. So I do think that is a huge part of what's going on in New York 9, especially when you're looking at what's going to motivate a low voter turnout election in a congressional district with a Congress that is pretty well unliked as well. So I think you put all those factors together. Hated even in some quarters.
I obviously disagree. Look, the president is going through a tough patch here, but in the district, his polls are about 44–45% favorable. It's not like it's 60–40. I mean, 2-to-1 against him.
But in a general election, that might matter, but not in a primary.
But my point is, I don't think it's fair to say that this is a referendum on Obama. What this is, a common thread emerges between the 26th race that Kathy Hochul won and here. Right, but here's what it shows. There's really an angry middle in this country. For the first time, we have independent voters who are angrier than either extreme. And whoever defines the issue in a way to pass that anger across, Hochul, in effect, handed Corwin a golf club in a lightning storm, and she got struck. Turner has attempted to do the same and has run a really terrific campaign. And so what you have here is that's what's really going on. And any party who misses, in other words, 2012 isn't going to be determined until we see who's defining the contest and who hands that lightning rod in the storm. But I really have never seen a period when independent voters are as angry. And by the way, the polling data on the Jobs Act is going to shift sharply against the Republicans and oppose.
Well, hold on. Before we get to the Jobs Act, we are going to talk about the Jobs Act.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But
the issue is not what is the issue. Like in the 26th, it was the Ryan plan, right? In this, it's President Obama and his lack of what are the issues? It's his relationship with Israel, which is animating a large part of the Jewish vote, correct? And it is a general dissatisfaction with leadership in Washington.
Well, and the economy. It's actually more the economy than Israel, if you believe the polling data.
But I think what's going to motivate voters to come out. I mean, we saw today in your blog about the National Organization for Marriage, and that they're taking credit. Look, do I think that they're moving that race? No. But do I think that there is a select number of voters out there who are animated by that issue that will come out in a primary? Sure I do.
I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt.
No. Interrupt away, Chris. That's the whole point of the segment.
Let's look at the demographics. The perception is this district is overwhelmingly Jewish. In fact, it's 36% Jewish.
Or 40, somewhere in there.
Somewhere. But it's not the 60% it was when Chuck Schumer left the Assembly to go to Congress.
But the lines are different, too. It's not the same district.
No, but what I mean, but that's my point. The Jewish vote is not the only thing that drives this.
That's right.
There are 33,000 registered Jewish Democrats in this district. There are 27,000 registered Democratic Hispanics, 13,000 Asians. Do we know that Weprin doesn't have a ground game? I mean, what happens to all the punditry if Weprin ekes out a victory tonight?
Well, two things happen. First of all, first of all, it depends on how close it is, right?
Right.
Because if it's very close, they win anyway. If close, and I would say close within 5. I mean, what should it be? This should be. It should have been a blowout.
Yes.
Now remember, Bob Turner, he ran the last time. He's got some name recognition.
Yes.
The Republican candidate that we're talking about here. He actually had 40% against Anthony Weiner. Anthony Weiner, who's like very well known now. Infamous, but for the wrong things. I guess what I'm saying is, if he ekes it out, everyone will say, well, it was because the Democrats had a ground game, because the Democrats had labor. The Republicans got bupkis in New York 9 in terms of GOTV, and the Nationals are not investing. The National Republican Party is not invested in this race.
Look, Weprin lost the campaign. I'll concede that.
A bad campaign.
The question tonight is, who wins the turnout? All credit goes to Turner for running a sharper, more focused, more nuanced race.
It was just that no one capitalized.
Well, but I'll make the observation, which normally I'm on the flip side of this, where we have Republicans coming in from Texas who are running congressional seats. In this case, the Republican National Committee, or the RCCC, has a New Yorker at the helm, in John Rogers, who's run races down there, and who knows ethnic politics and knows a little bit how to run a state race. Bill O'Reilly and Obie Murray have done a great job. They understand the district. They understand New York politics. And typically, we're on the flip side of that.
It only took the National Republican Party. What did they lose? I'm sorry. They lost in 23. They lost in 20. They lost in 26. And they finally got the message, it would be bad to run a race from Washington.
But on the flip side, the Democrats have put up an ad around 9/11 with an airplane buzzing around the city of New York, which shows a disconnect so far as understanding what the campaign needed to look like in that district.
The 9/11 issue for the Democrats to have pounced on was when Turner went to the Daily News editorial board and said he was opposed to first responders under Zadroga who suffer from cancer. Volunteers. Well, I watched the CBS documentary Sunday night on 9/11, and what was the closing pitch of that whole documentary? How unfair those first responders were being treated under the Zadroga bill. Weprin should have gotten 3 or 4 days of sharp tabloid press criticizing Turner, but he was too slow on the uptake. He should have criticized Eric Cantor for his position on denying hurricane aid. He should have made Turner discuss where he is on whether Social Security is a Ponzi scheme.
The loser list is going to be very long. The consultants are going to have a problem. But let's turn it back to the president.
Do we have to blame consultants?
I'm so sorry, but it's going to be an issue.
No, you're right. I'm teasing. You're right. It will.
And then, did labor do enough? Did people sit on their hands? Governor Cuomo did a robocall. He didn't appear in TV. No, well, that's the thing, right? We've talked about it on this show, redistricting. Some people are secretly hoping. Let's put it this way: bad for Kathy Hochul. If Bob Turner does not win, it's bad for Kathy Hochul, right? Because they got to get rid of a district, right? It's got to be, or Weprin wins. I mean,
the problem with reapportionment is, it's not like you pluck a district out here and a district out there. It's more like a slot. It moves, and where does it move, and how much of a core district is there, and who is actually willing to primary. I mean, one of the problems you had in this was the Democrats may have been reluctant to give this nomination to a hard charger, fearing that candidate, if they won, might have primaried one of the incumbents. So they went to somebody. So they went to somebody who they felt they would never rock the
boat.
But
I think at the end of the day, we tend to overanalyze this thing. And the fact of the matter is that, Bank of America has announced that they're laying off 40,000 people. Marine Midland announced they're laying off 30,000 people. I mean, there is just so much unease and discontent out there with the electorate. And the Democrats are the ruling party in Washington.
Okay, then
therefore, you're going to take a disproportionate amount.
After the debt limit crisis and the role of the Republican House, you can't say that anymore. And here's what's shifting. And the polling data is shifting dramatically from 2 months ago, when people said the deficit first, jobs second, to now, especially amongst independents and Democrats, jobs first.
Well, the deficit was fake. It was a fake argument. It was a fake
whatever it
battle.
was, people are now focused on unemployment.
Because they didn't need to have a fight over something. It was a false deadline. The Republicans decided that they would make a huge issue over something that they had never made an issue about before. It didn't need to occur, in other words. And I think that then the Republicans came back to the districts and they got the message. And now you're seeing that in the response to the Jobs Act. When I said that Republicans aren't thrilled, they're not. They don't want the wealthy to have more taxes. However, the president is being smart in one area where he's saying if you don't continue the payroll tax deduction, then
Right.
taxes will go up on the middle
Right.
class, right?
Right.
So that's a smart way to play
He's
it.
making the Bush tax cut argument.
Yeah, he is.
In reverse. Yeah, look, I do think that the president has finally learned a couple of lessons. I think, unfortunately for him, he is not a credible messenger for that message anymore because he's been down this path so many times and he's been unsuccessful.
Based on what?
Based on being in office for as long as he's been in the
His
fact,
poll
and the fact that
ratings are
people are
right
unhappy.
where Ronald Reagan's were in 1983. Now
He's no Ronald Reagan.
Well,
Yeah,
let's see.
to borrow an old line.
Let's see where he is. Your party has spent all this week fighting over whether or not your leading candidate for president will try to extinguish Social Security, the most popular program in the country and one that has all but eliminated poverty among seniors.
No,
and that is a wasted week in the debate. Your problem is you have Romney, who is facing religious bigotry on the part of the evangelical Christians who view the Mormon religion as a cult, and you now have Rick Perry, who, when the marginal states are going to be Florida in the northern landmass from Pennsylvania through Minnesota, which has an older demographic, he's going to be on the defensive if he were the nominee throughout.
If he were the nominee today.
And what happens when Joe Biden and
and
Hillary Clinton switch jobs and the ticket is Obama?
That is not going to
Clinton?
happen. Joe Biden says not happening, right?
If Henry Wallace said he was going to be on the ticket in 1944, too.
Right. Look, I think that if Rick Perry were the nominee today, he'd have a real tough time, selling that line in Florida or a lot of other states. But the reality is that he said what everybody in America knows, which is that Social Security is underfunded and that Social Security needs to be fixed.
No.
He called it a Ponzi scheme.
Romney said. No. He said
Mitt
it was a
Romney
mistake and it should be returned to the states.
Mitt Romney said the way that everybody else and every other politician talks about it. The reality is that Rick Perry said it in a much more colorful and interesting way.
Right, because he's a colorful and plain-spoken person. Last word for you, my friend.
This is where Ronald Reagan started in '76. By 1983, Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill saved Social Security and extended its financial viability till 2037.
Okay, time out. Obviously, we will have more discussions about the GOP field.
And I hope we're talking Social Security in the fall
Exactly.
of 2000.
I know.
Sure we
It'll be
will
jobs.
be. I don't think it's going to be a problem. Only if you're successful in changing the paradigm.
It'll be jobs.
All right. Dave
By the way,
Kaufman,
I expect a closer race tonight than these last polls indicated.
Yeah.
which was 6 points. We shall see. Do you want to bet now?
I think it's within 2 points either way. I think Turner has the momentum, so if you put a gun to my head, I'd say Turner wins, but it wouldn't surprise me if Weprin eked it out.
Okay, Bruce Jory, just for bragging rights, Dave Catalfamo.
Turner.
I said Weprin by 2, folks. So
Okay.
there, I'm on the
We're
record.
on the
I
record.
usually don't do that. All right, guys, we'll see.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.